This house is so old. It's too much work to take care of it, it's not worth it. Let's sell it. My brothers told me about our father's house. My name is Cassie, I'm 23 years old. When I was a kid, my dad's country house was my refuge. My brothers Jonas and Dean and I used to play there a lot. It was an old house with creaky wood and windows that looked out onto a wild garden full of secrets. Every room had a story, every movement carried memories. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the woody aroma of library books was my favorite scent. There I would spend hours listening to my dad's stories, exploring the attic and pretending it was an enchanted castle. Dad was my hero. He said that this house was more than bricks and wood, it was a keeper of memories, a portal to the past and a shelter for the dreams of the future. He taught me to plant flowers in the garden, to listen to the wind and to decipher the meaning of the creaks of the house, as if it were telling stories. Every night before I went to sleep he would tell me, "I will always be with you no matter what happens." Dad was a very dedicated family man, even after Mom abandoned us to run away with her other family. We suffered a lot because of this, especially Dad, but he was very strong and did everything we could so that we wouldn't suffer with Mom's departure. As we grew up, my brothers moved away and I'm the only one who still lives near Dad. My brothers didn't make an effort to keep in touch. Dad always worked hard, and despite the difficulties that depression brought after Mom ran away, he tried hard to get better and continued to bring everything good and best to us. My brothers always wanted to live far away, they never appreciated Dad's efforts with our family. Unfortunately, Dad got sick and his health soon got worse. It was a horrible time, it was very difficult to watch that situation. And then on a Wednesday he left. It was the worst day of my life. I was devastated, I wasn't prepared to not see him anymore, to not talk to him anymore, to be without him. Pain and longing invaded my chest. But I knew he needed to rest in peace. My brothers returned to the city when Dad passed away. They didn't waste any time. The day after the wake they came with lawyers to discuss the inheritance. I was shocked by this. After all, I still suffered a lot with Dad's departure, but they weren't worried about that. Dad's greatest asset was his country house, the one I loved very much. This house is so old. It's too much work to take care of it, it's not worth it. Let's sell it. Dean said. I didn't agree, but Jonas bought it and they soon started the paperwork to sell the house. In less than 6 months they put the house up for sale. I didn't agree, I protested, I fought, I cried, I begged. But it wasn't enough. For me it wasn't just a house, it was the home where my soul lived. But for them it was just a piece of property that needed to be liquidated. The discussions were exhausting. I said I could take care of the house, that we could find a way to keep it, but they were determined. The real estate agents started showing up, and with them strangers walking the halls, analyzing every inch of my childhood as if they were just deciding which color would go best with the new furniture. Each visit was a stab in the chest. The worst moment was the day of the signing. When my brothers left the notary's office, relieved to have gotten rid of the problem, I felt as if a part of me had been ripped out. The feeling of loss was overwhelming, as if Dad had died a second time. I spent days locked in my room looking at old photos, trying to hold on to what was left. But nothing could fill that void. I knew I had to move on, but I was still devastated by what had happened. But what they didn't know was that Dad always had a plan B. Months after the sale, I received a mysterious envelope in the mail. Inside it was an old key and a note written in his shaky handwriting. To my adventurous girl. Come home. The real treasure is waiting. My heart raced. What do you mean come back? The house wasn't ours anymore. But curiosity burned inside me. I waited until nightfall and drove there. The new family hadn't moved in yet. The gate was locked, but the key fit perfectly into a side door that had always been there, but I had never really noticed. Inside, everything seemed the same and at the same time different. As if the house knew it no longer belonged to me. I ran my fingers along the walls, feeling the texture of the wood, remembering when I was a child, and ran through those hallways. I went to the kitchen, where the marble countertops still bore the marks of our culinary adventures. I closed my eyes and could almost hear Dad laughing, saying that I put too much sugar in the cake. I followed my instincts to Dad's library. The smell of old paper and wood enveloped me, bringing back vivid memories. I sat in the worn leather armchair and for a moment closed my eyes, hoping to hear his voice tell another one of his stories. But all I heard was silence. At that moment I couldn't contain myself. I cried because I missed him so much. I took a deep breath. I needed to move on. Why had Dad left me that key? Suddenly something caught my attention. A book of fairy tales, my favorite from when I was a child, was on the library table. I decided to open it, and on the first page I saw that the book was hiding an envelope. I opened the envelope, and to my surprise, there was another note from Dad. I knew they would sell the house. I knew you would find this. Now choose. Get your home back or go your own way. I trust you. Dad had left me a fortune. I was shocked. What should I do with that money? Buy the house I had always been attached to, or move on, build a new life? My mind exploded. I fought with my brothers over that house. But there, holding that suitcase, I realized something. Maybe Dad wasn't giving me the house back. Maybe he was giving me freedom. I spent the whole night in that room reading the notebooks, trying to understand what he wanted to tell me. He had planned everything. For years he saved that money, he anticipated the sale of the house, he knew that I would have to make a choice. And more than that, he knew that I needed to learn to let go of the past. The next day I went to see a lawyer. With that money I could buy back the house or start my life over somewhere else. It was the hardest decision of my life, but I finally understood what Dad wanted for me. And that's how I left. Not far away, but to a place that was truly mine. And that, yes, was the greatest inheritance he could leave me. Thanks for everything, Dad.